Geneva sides.
Um, in 1978, on April 7th, President Carter postponed the neutron bomb. Do you think this was good or do you think it was bad?
I think it was a good thing
Why did you think it was good?
because nuclear weapons at that time, they did not know much about them, and there are lasting effects from nuclear bombs.
Later on in 1979, there was a decline of production of gas. How did this impact your life?
Um, I don't really remember it making much of an impact on me at that time.
Okay. Also, later on in 1979, it said that there was bumper to bumper, cars were bumper to bumper to get gas. Do you think this was true or false?
I don't remember that in this area it being that extreme.
Okay. Um, Also, during 1979, President Carter's approval rate dropped 25%. It was lower than President Nixon's during the Watergate scandal. How did you see President Carter?
I saw he did not have very much political experience, and I think maybe that's why his popularity declined.
Um, the Carter administration in 1979 warned Congress that by failing to aid Nicaragua will lead to communism. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Um, did it mean communism in the United States or communism in Nicaragua?
Communism in Nicaragua.
After being in Nicaragua, I actually saw some of the remnants of the war, and I saw the some of the lasting effects of the war on the people and the struggles that they had.
So, do you think that communism could have fixed the problems down there, or
No, I don't think so. I think it was too restrictive for the people.
so in 1980, after President Carter's popularity dropped, Ronald Reagan ran against President Carter. Did you know much about Ronald Reagan before he ran?
No, I think a lot of Reagan's popularity came from him being in the movies. I think a lot of people knew him from movies and had a false sense of who he really was.
So you don't think that Ronald Reagan should have run?
Oh, I think anybody has a right to run, and you never know how people are going to do until they actually take the office and try.
Okay. Also, who was running against President Carter and Ronald Reagan was Ted Kennedy. How did you feel about Ted Kennedy?
I think Ted Kennedy had there was a lot of problems. I think he was probably trying to achieve his goal by his name. He had been involved in several scandalous things in his time.
Okay. Um, so when Ronald Reagan becomes the presidential nominee, did that surprise you, or were you kind of expecting it?
No, I wasn't surprised.
Okay. So, and then Ronald Reagan became president. Um, Also, in 1980, a deranged fan killed John Lennon.
Mm.
Did you Did you like the Beatles?
Oh yes, I was very shocked when that happened.
Did you agree with the anti-war protesting that John Lennon did?
I didn't really disagree or agree with it. Nobody likes wars, but sometimes they do have to be fought, and I think it's degrading to the men and women who are serving in the wars. I think we have to be supportive and we have to be united as a country.
Um, in 1981, the Ku Klux Klan murders black 19-year-old. Um, so the Ku Klux Klan was against um, blacks. How did you feel about that, the murder?
I don't remember that specifically, that murder. I'm not racist. I think there are good and bad in all people, and if he was singled out because he was black, I totally disagree with it.
Um, in 1983, going back to the oil and gasoline, it was up to $34 per gallon. Was that true here in Maine?
$34 per gallon or you barrel?
It said per gallon.
Uh, I don't know. It didn't hear me.
Okay. So, also in 1983, President Reagan signs a bill creating Martin Luther King Day. How did you feel about that after Martin Luther King was shot?
Um, to be singled out for one specific person, I don't totally agree with that. Um, I think it was because he was black and he was a good leader, but I don't necessarily agree with it, a holiday just for one person.
In 1987, George George Bush was nominated for president. How did you did How much did you know about George Bush?
Not a whole lot.
Did you like what he stood for?
I don't really know what his basis was.
Okay. When he became president, he breaks the new taxes complain pledge, accepting tax revenue increases. How did that affect your life?
I don't think it really made much of an impact on my life.
In 1992, President Bush and Bill Clinton both run for nomination. As you know, Bill Clinton was elected. Did you agree with Bill Clinton?
I don't really remember what his stand was.
Um, in 1993, Bill Clinton announces his plan to lift the ban off gays in the military. How did you hear about that?
Um, yes, I remember, and it's been a long time, and they just passed that law.
So do you agree with it or?
Yeah, I agree with it. I don't see any that it really makes any difference whether you're gay or you're black or you're white or you're straight.
Okay. Um, in 1994, President Clinton is accused of sexually harassing and assaulting Paula Jones, which leads to a lawsuit later on in 1998, which there was possible adulterous relationship between Bill Clinton and one of his interns. And then later on in 1998, Clinton admits to inappropriate relationship with that intern. how did that change your thoughts on him as our president?
I lost respect for him. I think he's a man of power, and whether he used his power to initiate that relationship, I think he lost. From me, he lost a lot of his credibility.
And in 2000, George Bush, the younger George Bush, was nominated for president, and George Bush wins the election. Um, how do you think he handled 9/11?
That was a very traumatic part of our history. I'm not really sure what he could have done different. It was a very traumatic incident for anybody to handle.
So do you think the war that is going on now because of 9/11, do you think it still should be going on?
I think it's gone on too long. I think that maybe things could have been handled differently, but I think you have to do what you have to do at the time. I think it has gone on too long, though.
Okay. All right. Thank you.